up in the morning is to see what the weather is like. Then I can tell what to wear to school. Much of the time it rains here in Holland. Today we're lucky.
Jan, opschieten. Ja, mam, ik kom. Het is 8:30.
Mother says it's 9:30. That's how we say 8:30. I'm a little late as usual. This is my father. We get along pretty well except for one thing, which I'll tell you about later. My brother Kees usually isn't permitted to read at the table, but he has important exams this week. My sister, Rietje, wants to be like our mother when she grows up, a housewife who looks after her family. As for me, I want to be like my Uncle Theo, captain on a ship. That's for me. My name is Jan van Hoek, and I live in Amsterdam, the biggest city in a very small country, Holland. For breakfast, I can have cheese or meat on my bread. But I would rather have chocolate sprinkles. Father will have to get moving. Traffic is always very heavy in the morning. Mother prepares a lunch for Father every day, so we can take it along to work. We'd better get a move on too, if we want to get to school on time. After we leave, Mother will spend much of the day cleaning. School is a little too far for me to walk, but it only takes me about 15 minutes on my bike.
Oh.
The junk man comes through our neighborhood every week, buying old things.
Oh.
Our kitchen is small, but everything is handy for Mother. The water for the dishes is heated in a burner directly over the sink. On my way to school, I meet more and more of my friends. Almost everybody in Holland rides a bicycle. The country is mostly flat and very good for cycling. For every 2 people in Holland there is 1 bicycle. 13 million people, 6.5 million bicycles. Our school is a new one in a new neighborhood. Before the bell rings in the morning, our classroom is very noisy.
Even spullen op en nee, laat maar let
Mr.
even goed
Jansen
op.
tells us to clear our desks and to get ready for the grammar lesson.
Bij de Nederlandse taal over die... jongens, ik wou eens even met jullie praten over de verschillende gezegdes die wij in het Nederlands hebben.
In the domestic science school where Rietje goes, they start with the cooking class. More and more women in Holland are going into careers, but many girls want only to be homemakers. Rietje hopes to be able to cook as well as our mother, but she has a long way to go. The airplane factory where Father works is on the outskirts of Amsterdam. I'll bet you didn't know the Dutch build airplanes. We make automobiles too, though only one kind. Our class is having a geography lesson now. Sometimes I don't pay as much attention as I should, but I just can't help thinking about the ships I hope I will sail someday.
Jan?
Ik? Even if I have not been paying proper attention, Mr. Jansen doesn't catch me so easily. When it comes to imports and exports, much of it carried into and out of our country by ships, Then I know a bit about that. I know that Holland has few raw materials of her own and must import them from all over the world. But then we ship out things to the whole world. Things we manufacture, like electronic equipment, for example, and chemical products, and things we grow, like vegetables and flowers. In our school, only one child at a time may leave the room during class. The washroom is shared by boys and girls, but the boys and girls' toilets are separate at each end of the washroom. What we call football, and the Americans call soccer, is our most popular sport. I often play football with my friends after school. But sometimes I help my brother Kees with his newspaper route. I'm a bit young to have a job like this, but brother Kees lets me help him, and when I do, he shares with me some of the money he earns. Even when we live in houses with several apartments on several floors, we Dutch have a tradition of having our own private doorways onto the street. Though I will say this is changing. It is no longer true with the large new modern apartment houses. Amsterdam has more canals than Venice, and many people live in houseboats parked along the sides of many of these canals. Some because we just don't have enough houses since the last war. Life aboard a houseboat is not very different from life in a small apartment on land. Sometimes when I am helping Kees, I run into my friends. Peter would like me to go fishing with him. Brother Kees says he can finish up himself. And I just can't resist the chance to visit the boat docks. Amsterdam has a big harbor where many ships come. I'm not so interested in fishing, but I like to watch the ships come and go. My Uncle Theo has invited me to go on a trip sometime. I hope it will be on the next school vacation. Mother and Rietje often shop at this street market. We Dutch all love flowers. Mother can hardly ever pass a flower stall without stopping to buy some. Dutch flowers are sold all over Europe, and our tulip bulbs are shipped around the world. The flea market is another outdoor market where used things of every imaginable sort are sold. I like to look for things here. Like most of her friends, Rietje likes what she calls beat music and the new dances that go with it. Sometimes I think that's all she thinks about. Father gets out of work at 5 and likes to keep up with what is going on in Holland and all over the world. I sometimes tease Rietje, but Father gets annoyed when we quarrel. Father wants to know what I did all afternoon after school. I tell him about helping Kees and about going fishing, but not catching any fish, and of all the exciting ships I saw in the harbor. I remind him of the promise that someday I might go for a week's trip on Uncle Theo's ship. And now we come to the part where Father and I disagree. Father doesn't like the idea of my wanting to be a sea captain. Sailors must go to sea and be separated from their families for long periods. That isn't so good. He hopes I will outgrow this idea. There are, he says, so many more desirable things one could be. Doctor, for example. Teacher, like Mr. Janssen. Businessman, perhaps an import-export. Engineer, designer. There are so many fine careers a boy might consider. I must not close my mind, he says. It's time for the weather report, and we're all interested because we've planned a trip to the country tomorrow, to Uncle Joop's farm. The forecast gives us the weather all over Europe, as well as Holland. It's not too bad for us. In the morning before we leave on our trip, I help Father wash the car. We do this every week. Mother and Rietje make sandwiches to take along. My brother has more examinations coming next week, and he's decided to stay home to study. Before we get out to the country, we have to drive through much of Amsterdam. Besides being the largest city, Amsterdam is also the capital of the Netherlands. I think the canals are pretty, and many tourists take boat rides in them. Sometimes cars fall in them. That's not so good. On the outskirts of the city, many great new apartment buildings are being built. But we still need more. Wherever you go through the countryside, you will find canals. In some places, every house must have its own bridge. I like to look at the castles we pass sometimes. We have quite a few of these. A few hundred years ago, in feudal times, lords and knights lived in them. But now most have become museums or schools. Though we're only a few miles from Amsterdam, life in small towns like this is very different from life in the city. Many of the people still wear traditional costumes and wooden shoes. This is a fishing village. Netherlands, which is the real name of Holland, means low lands, and much of our country is below sea level. This farming area was reclaimed from the sea. Our engineers built the dike, a kind of wall around it, and pumped out the water. Uncle Joop's farm is very new, and it was a real adventure moving to land where no one had ever lived before. Grandfather lives here too. Uncle Joop has not yet come in from working in the field. He grows mostly wheat and oats, potatoes and sugar beets. On land that was on the bottom of the sea only a few years ago, under 18 feet of water. Grandfather wants to show me the newest addition to the farm. These are the only farm animals they have, and they have them really just as pets for my cousins. Uncle Joop studied farming at school. When he wanted to settle on this new land, he had to apply to the government. He was selected because the government thought he would make a good farmer. I've heard there's a special surprise waiting for me in the house. Uncle Theo! Uncle Theo seems to be as happy to see me as I am to see him. Now we can talk about that trip we're going to take on his freighter. Father still isn't happy about my going to sea. But, well, he thinks, maybe it will cure me of wanting to be a sea captain, especially if the water gets rough. So, soon we have it settled. Uncle Theo will be sailing out of Amsterdam harbor a few days after the school semester is ended. So, I guess I'm very lucky, and today I'm very happy. Everybody wishes me luck, good weather, and a calm sea. Well, Father says not too calm. He wants me to learn what sailing the seas is really like. But I think everything will be all right. Whether I change my mind or not, I think I will always love the sea.